Ladies, gentlemen, and Harajam of all ages, Season 4 is essentially the season of the uber uniques. Between increased drop rates across the board, among also just an obscene amount of possible guaranteed resplendent sparks this season, especially with your alts involved as well, it's just never been easier to get an uber unique than it is right at this moment, and especially never easier to get one of your own choice due to the resplendent sparks. With that in mind, it helps to know as much as you can before doing so, and today we're going to talk about the brand new uber unique in Season 4, Tyrael's Might. I've had this item myself for a number of days now. It was my choice of uber uniques that I actually purposefully got with my sparks. I actively farmed to get the specific one because I wanted it, and so today we're just going to go over it from every angle. How good is it? Is it worth going for yourself? And of course, why it works the way that it does as well, and why I went for it personally. First off, it's just ridiculously strong. Is it for everyone? No. The main reason is that the actual unique effect on the item does basically nothing. Yes, firing out holy arrows when you're at high health is nice, but their damage relative to endgame builds is piddling at best, and so it's just not why you would want to have this item. The reason you would want it is the affixes on it. All stats is nice, especially with it not being a common roll on items anymore, but maximum resistance to all elements is insane defensively, which of course only really matters if you're pushing the really challenging endgame activities, but if you are, it's really important. 5% is the amount of this affix you get as a base. My current one is up to nearly 9% with one major upgrade roll on it from Masterworking, but it's important to talk about why this specific stat is such a game changer, and the reason is survivability. The vast majority of the damage in this game is elemental in some way. Physical damage is comparatively quite rare, and unlike every other damage reduction scaler in the game, resistance scaling does not have diminishing returns. What I mean is if you stack damage reduction affixes of the same type enough times, you will find that you no longer get their full value in your stat sheet. The amount it actually reduces per item will go down, but the same does not happen for resistances, which is why they have a maximum cap, and that is why changing that maximum cap, if you're able to in any way, is a massive shift for survivability. At a base, this is 5% bonus maximum resistance. If you are, as a default, taking 70% reduced elemental damage, and that is what every player is meant to do, 70% elemental resistance is your base maximum, then you change that to 75% reduced elemental damage, you are effectively now taking 17% less damage than you were before. You went from taking 30% of incoming elemental damage to 25% of it, which is just the actual explanation of why this is a 17% damage reduction even at base level. Now consider two factors past that. Masterworking can make an affix gain 120% of its base potency with perfect rolls, more than doubling, which means that you could get this up to 11% if you hit it perfectly, which would be 81% elemental resistance, which is around a 37% decrease in elemental damage taken from the default cap of 70%. Then this is where it gets really fun, because uber uniques are capable of dropping with greater affixes, which means technically you can have greater affix maximum element resistance, which would be 7.5% on the base item before upgrades. If you then were to be able to apply perfect masterworking on top of that, it would bump it up to 16.5%, which is technically overkill as the limit to maximum raised resistance in the game is 85%, which this reaches just barely, and that would make you take 50% less damage when compared to the base elemental resistance cap. With this item perfected, you would take literally half of the damage from elemental effects that you currently do. Not to mention the other two affixes being just a bonus to all element resistance, which is of course especially nice for filling your new maximums from this item that it gives you itself, and then just a flat damage reduction roll as a bonus, because honestly, why not at this point? And that is exceptionally good, especially because, as people have realized recently, higher tiers of the pit basically require you to have non-specified damage reduction like this. If you have damage reduction from close enemies, that doesn't affect the ghost echo attacks, whereas damage reduction in general does. So to sum it up, really, offensively, it's pretty bad. There are some exceptions to this, of course, specifically if you like significantly overlevel a specific piece of content that you're about to engage with and are a mostly melee build especially, this will essentially give you a constant ranged attack anytime you use a skill. It just doesn't scale too great with your damage into more challenging content, of course. If you're looking for offense, you just want a different uber unique than this one. It's honestly as simple as that. That said, defensively, you would be hard pressed to find something quite as impactful impactful and strong as this. The Harlequin Crest is really solid as a middle ground, but just provides far less damage reduction than this. And while Doombringer with greater affixes and masterworking can provide insane amounts of bonus health, it takes up a weapon slot, which is much more important than a chest slot, and health means very little without actual damage reductions behind it to back it up, and Tyrael's Might has those to an extreme degree. That said, for perfect survivability, you would want to use Tyrael's Might and Doombringer if you had the choice. One last little tip then that I think is quite fun that I noticed here: if you take your gems out of an Uber Unique, unlike every other ancestral item in the game, they will be equipable at level 35, meaning if you are running an alt, if you are leveling a second character, you can send that character, your Uber Unique, through your stash to wear as early as level 35. With Tyrael specifically, this makes you insanely tankier than the game expects you to be at any given point in the leveling journey, and unfortunately, because the offensive effect seems to scale off of player weapon damage instead of item power of the item itself, it doesn't seem to become randomly offensively strong, sadly. It's just nice to have, especially if you plan on hitting World Tier 4 early and you want to survive in some more dangerous activities to get a bit more XP than you maybe should at that point. That just about does it then, everyone. I've just had this Uber Unique for a few days, and with it being new this season and so genuinely incredible, I really just wanted to talk about my experience with it. And while it did get a bit number heavy, of course, I just wanted to properly express how strong the defensive side of this item is, because on the surface, seeing the number 5% maximum element resist may make it seem really small. But once you dive into the nitty-gritty of how this all actually works and the ways to increase it, it becomes absolutely gargantuan. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video then, and let me know your own thoughts on this Uber Unique in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.